Hey everyone, Jackson here. I am doing a set of 4 videos based off of my last post about wound healing and scar management. So I'm going to go through each step individually and talk about things that you can do, that we all can do, to enhance healing at every stage. So let's start with the coagulation phase. Coagulation phase is the first phase of wound healing, and it basically describes the action of injury. So in our case, if a surgeon uses a scalpel and cuts the skin, that causes an injury, and it breaks blood vessels and it breaks cells apart. So it breaks the skin apart or whatever. Okay, so the coagulation phase is there to seal the blood vessels so that you don't bleed out of those. Okay, and it's there to help slow the blood down in that area so there's no turbulence. And it's sort of like those platelets as they come together at the area that needs to be sealed, lets out a bunch of other chemicals that direct the immune system of where it needs to go. So when the skin is cut and the blood vessels are cut and bleeding occurs, which happens all the time if you cut yourself with a knife accidentally, it's the same thing. Okay, within seconds the platelets come to the area. So the platelets float around your blood and they work to plug areas of bleeding. Okay, so they detect, or the area that's been injured starts to, the platelets end up there because they're everywhere in the blood. The blood slows down, the platelets collect in that area and they form a plug around the blood vessels that are bleeding. And the plug is supported by bits of fibrin, which are like little threads, like spider webs, and that keeps the clot there. And that's a really important process, obviously, because you stop bleeding, and that's what you want after surgery. But like I said, the other thing that happens is the platelet will let off some other chemicals, and so the rest of the immune system will be able to find the area of injury and then apply its therapy then. So what are some things that you can do to enhance the coagulation phase that occurs within the first few seconds? Few seconds of healing, seconds to the first 3 days. It continues. Things that you can do to prepare you for this stage is have really good quality blood floating around your body. Okay, so how would you do that? You would, minimum 2 weeks before surgery, prepare your diet and prepare your blood for surgery. And so what I mean by that is, like, you basically are what you eat. The body is extremely efficient in buffering shit food that you eat. But at the end of the day, if we're not providing our food with good quality nutrition, then our system will reflect that. So the blood constituents and the chemistry of your blood is made up of what goes through your gut. And then what ends up out of your gut after it's passed through the liver. The liver is there to clean and to take out the major bad things like bad fats and bacteria and fungus and all that kind of crap that you may have eaten. Okay, so once that's all done, the blood's going to absorb everything else because it needs to direct it and take it to different areas of the body. So if your blood is very acidic for the blood, or if it's dry, dehydration, or it is lacking in some essential nutrients like phosphorus and silica and salts and things like that, that is not going to help the coagulation phase. Now, none of this is going to cause like major damage, but this is all about enhancing recovery and enhancing the type of wound that you have. So my main advice is to have good diet. Okay, so good and clean. And that doesn't mean that you go on any like fad diets or you like start taking a bunch of supplements or something that you've never taken before. This isn't about weight loss in any regard. This is about clean eating. So the way that I suggest people to clean up their diet 2 weeks before surgery is just look at what you're eating. Look at the amount of sugar you're eating. Look at the amount of shit that you're eating and the amount of vegetables and good quality meats and things like that. And what you want to do is look at the shit first and cut it down by half. So it means if you're eating a whole block of chocolate a day or half a block of chocolate a day, you cut that down to half a block or a quarter of a block a day. Okay, and then once you've done all those things, halved your macas, halved your grains, things like that, you want to look at bringing in or enhancing other types of nutrient-dense food, like adding in vegetables, especially green veg, and adding in good fruits, seasonal fruits with lots of nutrients in them, preferably organic, obviously, because organic fruit and veg holds more nutrients than non-organic fruit and veg. The other thing you want to be doing is looking at the type of foods that you eat that are inflammatory. So inflammatory foods make the body more acidic. It takes more energy to break down inflammatory foods to use it as fuel than it does to break down non-inflammatory foods. So you want to take the pressure off your body so it can be clean as possible before it goes into major trauma like surgery. So the foods that are inflammatory in the body, any junk food basically, so very white starchy food like white bread, burger buns, pizza, that kind of thing. Processed meats like salamis, pastrami, and meat that you don't really see it coming off the main part of the animal. Those kinds of meats. The other kinds of inflammatory food are most grains, especially processed grains like gluten and rice. Rice isn't so bad if it's whole grain rice. Still, if you're eating like a ton of rice every day, cut it down by half. The other thing that's inflammatory is dairy. Dairy is an inflammatory food. It's a mucus-producing food. It's not something that you want to have pre-surgery. So you'd be looking at cutting your dairy in half as well. And what you can do with all this stuff is you can cut it in half and you add in foods that are non-inflammatory. So you can add in more fruits and veg. You can add in protein powder. You can add in non-dairy milks and things like that. Okay, that's the main way that I would prepare the diet. Okay, the other thing that I would be looking at eating is nutrient-dense food. Like I said, organic fruit and veg. Let me put that on my list. Okay, organic fruit and veg. If you hate fruit and veg, get one of those like green powders and mix it up in apple juice like a 2-year-old. It's totally fine. No judgment here. Any way you can get it in, I'm happy. The other thing you can take at this stage, and you probably could start, you should start the day before surgery and continue until it's finished, is both quercetin and bromelain. So quercetin is an amazing antioxidant in the body. It enhances the action of the immune system, especially the neutrophils and things like that. We're going to talk about that next video. But if you can start building up your profile of quercetin as soon as possible, that'd be good. It's one of the only supplements you can take pre-op. The other supplement I would take is bromelain, and bromelain is a compound from pineapples. You can eat pineapples if you like. I prefer to get a stronger dose in a supplement form of bromelain, and you start that the day before as well. Bromelain is really, really good at promoting coagulation phase and the second phase of wound healing. So it stops you from bleeding out and things like that. It's really good. It stops you from developing hematomas as well. So that's like too much jelly in your bloodstream, too much crap in the wound. It also prevents bruising, which is like really good. So that's bleeding out into other tissues, and that's not what you want. Especially if you're having like nipple grafts or facial surgeries and things like that. You want hematomas to be minimum because they really mess up the scar tissue formation. Or you might even need a second surgery. So bromelain's like magic for that. The other thing that I suggest at this time is homeopaths, including arnica. So arnica, surgically, I would get an arnica that's 200C in strength. Okay, homeopaths come at different strengths. There's like 30, 60, and 200C. And there's a 1M formula. Don't get the 1M formula. You're supposed to take that like once a year if it's your constitution. So 200C arnica is really good for surgery. And arnica, what it does, it prevents bruising, prevents too much inflammation, and enhances healing at this stage. So really amazing stuff. If you've ever had like a swollen ankle or you've ever bruised yourself, like corked your thigh or something, you take arnica, that bruise is gone in like 5 days. It's amazing. Okay, so that's kind of like, they're my main suggestions to enhance healing, especially the very initial phases of healing. And as always, the initial phases of healing, they're enhanced by what we do pre-op. So minimum 2 weeks pre-op is when I would clean up my diet, start looking at how to make my blood nice and clean, and then taking some supplements to enhance recovery. Awesome.